Anderson, Berryhill, Blakesley, Calderon, Canella, Corbett, Correa, De Leon, DeSaulnier, Dutton, Emerson, Evans, Fuller, Gaines, Hancock, Harmon, Hernandez, Huff, Kehoe, LaMalfa, Leno, Ted Lieu, Carol Lieu, Lowenthal, Negrete McLeod, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Rubio, Runner, Smidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Vargas, Walters, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee.
Members, please report to the floor for today's session. The quorum is present. Would our members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We'll be led in prayer this morning by our guest chaplain, Father Michael Kiernan, the rector of the Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament. After which, please remain standing. We'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Noreen Evans.
Thank you. Great to be with you all, and happy St. Patrick's Day today. And so we pray. O God, who chose the Bishop, St. Patrick, to preach your glory to the peoples of Ireland, grant that those who glory in the name of Christian may never cease to proclaim your wondrous deeds to all. Bless this day of Irish heritage celebration, that peoples of all faiths in that culture may seek justice, peace, and harmony for themselves and all the people of the world. May the dedication of St. Patrick to his faith inspire all people to do what is good as they serve you and all humanity. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
Privileges of the floor. Messages from the governor will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will be deemed read. Reports of committee will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Members, motions, resolutions, and notices. Without objection, the following resolutions will be withdrawn from committee and placed on today's special consent calendar: ACR 113 and ACR 114. Members, are there any adjourn in memories, motions, and resolutions? Senator Kehoe, adjourn in memory.
Thank you, Madam President. With your permission, I have two San Diegans I'd like to remember this morning, both of them wonderful people that I knew personally.
Please proceed.
The first is Chuck Latimer, a longtime member of Communication Workers of America, Local 9509, the largest local in San Diego, and a real powerhouse in our local labor movement, working for working families in San Diego. He served as a delegate to the San Diego Imperial County Labor Council for many years. He was present at nearly every meeting. He was a godsend to candidates at every level of office, and he could put together a little phone system or troubleshoot a big phone system on nights and weekends. He was a very stalwart supporter for so many of us, myself included. He was previously president of the Federation of Retired Union Members Forum, and his commitment to the movement and to San Diego in general, to his neighborhood and family, will be greatly missed by all of us. And I'd like to add Eleanor Mang, a longtime resident of Carlsbad. She passed away Monday night at the age of 77 as a result of a traffic accident last week. Very sad occasion. She raised 5 children with her husband, Joe. She decided to pursue her formal education and worked as an executive for a local printing company for many years. And upon retirement, she committed herself wholeheartedly to the San Diego County Democratic Party. She was president of the Claremont Mesa Planning Committee in addition to her party work. She served the city of San Diego and her neighborhood in that capacity for many years. She spent a lifetime in service to other San Diegans, and her strength, humor, and dedication will be missed by all of us. I ask for us to remember both Chuck Latimer and Eleanor Mang.
Thank you very much, Senator Kehoe. Can you please bring the names forward to the desk, and please share our condolences and our sorrow with the families. Members, we're going to go back to consideration of the daily file. The next item will be governor's appointments. Senator Steinberg, do we have a governor's appointment this morning?
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is the nomination of Mark J. Farron as a commissioner with the Public Utilities Commission. Mr. Farron was heard in the Rules Committee on March the 7th and approved on a bipartisan vote of 5-0. Mr. Farron comes from the financial services sector, and I believe I can speak for my colleagues, they can speak for themselves on the Rules Committee, but we were all impressed with his intelligence, his thought process, and his thoughtfulness about the often complicated and certainly important issues facing the Public Utilities Commission on behalf of ratepayers here in California. This is an excellent nominee by the governor. I compliment the governor on his judgment in putting forward Mr. Farron, and we urge an aye vote.
Members, is there any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we can call the roll on that matter.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Aye. Corbett.
Aye.
Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Wyland. Yee. Yee, aye. Lowenthal, aye. LaMalfa, no.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, members. The vote is 35-2. The motion passes. Excuse me. The nominee is confirmed. Members, we're going to return to privileges of the floor. Senator Woke at Senator Steinberg's desk.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I am very proud this morning to present to you Mike Papadopoulos, known as Coach Pop, from Vacaville High School, who is the 2011 ESPN California High School Sports Coach of the Year. He has been coaching at Vacaville High School since 1992, emphasizing discipline and good sportsmanship, and he has served as the Bulldogs head track and field coach since 1993 and the varsity football coach since 2005. Under his leadership as head varsity football coach, the Bulldogs have won at least 10 games in 5 of the last 6 years, posting an 11-4 postseason record. During his tenure, the team won 5 Empire League championships, and in 2011, he led the Bulldogs to their second Sacramento-San Joaquin section title in 6 years with a 39-35 win over Folsom, sorry Ted, in December for this year's Division II championship. The team posted a 13-1 record, ending the season with a 12-game winning streak and giving him an overall record of 70-15. Members, with him today is the principal of Vacaville High, Ed Santapadre, Karen Papadopoulos, his wife, and Bert Brown, who's an assistant coach. Please join me in recognizing and thanking Coach Pop for all that he does for the youth of our community. Thank you.
Welcome to your very special guest, Senator Woke. Thank you, Coach, for all your great work.
Back on consideration of the daily file, Senate third reading, item 15. Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 64 by Senator Corbett relative to Irish American Heritage Month.
Senator Corbett.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I rise proudly to present Senate Concurrent Resolution 64, along with my co-authors, including Senator Noreen Evans, declaring March 2012 as Irish American Heritage Month and recognizing the many contributions of Irish Americans have made in California. This is becoming a little tradition here in the state legislature, and glad to share that. Today, over 34.7 million Americans claim Irish heritage, and as you all know, on St. Patrick's Day, that number swells quite a bit. This number is 7 times the population of Ireland itself, which is 4.58 million. California has the largest population of Irish Americans of any state, and there are 16 places in the United States that share the name of Ireland's capital, which is Dublin. The most populous of these places is Dublin, California, with the population of 46,036. We have very many famous Irish Americans, including David Broderick. Does anyone know who David Broderick was? For any of you who are wondering who the gentleman of the marble bust in the Senate chamber is, to my right side here, he was an Irish American and was President pro tem of the House in 1851. That will be a trivia question later. California can boast many other renowned men and women of Irish descent, including President Ronald Reagan, who was our governor, Governor Pat Brown, our current governor, Jerry Brown, Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, and many other legislators who have served in this House and the Assembly. The first female space shuttle member, Eileen Collins, an Irish-American author by the name of Mary McCarthy, actor George Clooney, president of Hearst Magazine's Kathleen Black, and Nobel laureate in physics professor at UC Berkeley, Charles Towns, and of course many more. I'd like to ask you to please join me in celebrating all that Irish Americans have contributed to our great state and will continue to, and the great story and history of people who came to this country, like many others, who make so many wonderful contributions to the success of our state. So I'd like to close with an Irish blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. And may you be in heaven a half hour before the devil knows you're dead. I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and please enjoy your shamrocks. Thank you all.
Thank you, Lassie. Senator Dutton at his desk.
For purposes of introduction?
No. We're going to...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any further debate or discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cannella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. Lamalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Yee. Yee, aye. Runner. Strickland. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wyland.
Thank you very much, members. The vote is 38-0. Resolutions are adopted. Members, we are going to go back to motions and resolutions.
Senator Dutton has an introduction. Senator Collin has an introduction.
So is that what we do now? Okay. Senator Dutton, for what purpose do you rise?
For purposes of introduction.
Please proceed.
Members, please join with me in welcoming the fourth grade class of the La Sierra Academy, accompanied by their teachers Kathy Spencer and Robin Brown. They're in the gallery.
Senator Calderon, you have an introduction?
Yes, for the purposes of introduction, I'd like to introduce and welcome to the floor a longtime friend, 25-year educator, professor of Saddleback College in Southern California area, Mr. Walt Diagaro, and his son, Walt Jr., currently attending San Francisco State, taking music like my son. Bright new musician on the road to success. I want to welcome them to the floor today, please.
Welcome to your guests. Senator Yee, for what purpose do you rise?
In memoriam.
Thank you very much, Senator Yee. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It's really with a heavy heart that I talk about the passing of Rob Blonian. As all of us know, particularly those of us who have served on the GO committee, Rob Blonian was one of those individuals that that really embody, I think, what GO is about. It is about really protecting the industry, but also making sure that those individuals who participate in that industry practice the very, very best of what was important for the people, and that is to protect the interests of the people. Rob Blonian has had an illustrious career way before I met him
He served as one of Governor George Dumazian's top aide as a legislative secretary, then served as the Undersecretary of Corrections, also under Governor Dumazian. But one of the things that I will always remember about Rob Blonian is that, one of the most important quality of any of us working in the state legislature in Sacramento is that of trust. And oftentimes we say that, but we seldom practice it. Rob Blonian was one of those individuals that if he said that the sky was green, you could take that to the bank and not worry about it. Rob Blonian was an amazing individual. I remember the very last meeting of the GO committee in the assembly at a particular session, and things got a little heated and a little tense and so on, and Rob Blonian came up at the last item, and rather than saying anything, he broke out in a song, and it broke everybody up. And it made us all think about, despite all the tension and differences among all of us, that this place is really about how to get along and how to work together, and not to bring up our arms, but rather to lay them down and to try and find ways for us to come to a compromise. And I think that that is what I've always remembered about Rob Blonian. I also think about Rob Blonian in another way. I knew that there was an issue in my district, a card club, and we felt that there were things that were just not right about that card club. And we thought that we would be able to end that particular card club. And good old Rob Blonian, he found an obscure sentence in some code that saved that card club. And I said to all the opponents of that card club, so long as Rob Blonian is around, he will always save the day. And we might as well accept that particular fact and embrace this particular card club and try to make the best of it. And that was also one of the key things about Rob Blonian. He knew the code, he knew the law better than anybody else. And because of that, he was an advisor, he was a counselor to so many of us in GO, and I'm sure in the rest of the legislature. And it is because of his kindness and the trust that you had and the smarts and the knowledge that he had that he was just such an invaluable person. And his departure, his sudden departure, is going to leave a big hole for all of us, and both professionally and personally. He is survived by his wife, Noreen, 4 grown children, Ryan, Jessica, Molly, and Jared, and also 11 grandchildren. There is a rosary for him tonight, and there is a service for him tomorrow. So with that, Madam President, that ends my comment on Rob Blonian.
Thank you very much, Senator Yee. We express our condolences to the Blonian family. We thank him for his longtime service to this state, and we thank him for his friendship. Members, please bring the name to the desk, and I believe Senator Wright would also like to speak in honor of Mr. Blonian.
As I think of Rod Blonian, it would be like Rod Blonian to die right before St. Patrick's Day and be the Irish guy. And if you saw him today, he'd be someplace singing, as Leland said. And just about the time that you would be in the middle of something serious, Rod would break out into a song in this kind of Irish brogue, and you had to laugh, in part because he was just bold enough to do it, but the other side was that he was a reminder that often what we do is not as serious as we think it is. But the other part of Rod that I enjoyed, in fact, we were scheduled to get together that day, and like a couple of people, I was like, well, where's Rod? He's usually not late, so you know how you make that joke, you better be dead if you're not here. I didn't know that people took it that literally, but The thing that I always loved about Rod is if you spent time with him, he would always talk about his family. His son passed the bar. I think I had to hear that story at least 5 times. His daughter was a lawyer. I think I heard that story 8 or 9 times. In fact, every one of the episodes in Rod's family, you had to hear that before you ever got to the business of the card club or the gaming or whatever it was going to be. You were going to have a discussion about his wife and family. I remember years ago I had prostate cancer, and Rod talked to me, and I remember he had prostate cancer, and we shared that together. But there's an old song now, and I use the lyric of this because Rod would sing an Irish song, so to me, I'll take a lyric by Nat King Cole. In Nat King Cole's song, it was called Nature Boy. But the tagline in Nature Boy really was suitable to Rod Blanian. And the line simply says that the greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return. And when I think of Rod Blanian and his kids and his grandkids and the successes that they had and the life that he enjoyed, he really embodies what is said in that song. And it's something that we all want to remember, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be remembered for the work that you did. You're not going to be remembered for all the other little stuff that you accomplished. You'll be remembered for the respect that was held by you, by your friends and family. And I think that the Rod Blanian that I knew as we discuss him today was a gentleman who was certainly loved and loved everyone else in return.
Thank you very much, Senator Wright, for those lovely words. And again, please share the condolences of the State Senate with the Blanian family. Thank you very much. Senator Correa, for what purpose do you rise?
To adjourn in the memory of.
Thank you very much.
I'd like you to join me in adjourning in the memory of Caroline Mary Orsinelli of Stanton, California, who passed away March the 5th. She was born and grew up in Cranston, Rhode Island, and after she was married, she moved to Garden Grove, and that was in 1954, and immediately began to be active in St. Columba's Parish in Garden Grove, where her 2 children, Steve and Jennifer, attended parochial school. She was very active in parish life and was also a founding member of a new parish, St. Polycarp Parish, where she taught communion classes for over 45 years until she retired in 2006. She is survived by her son Stephen and her daughter Jennifer, 6 grandchildren, 5 great-grandchildren, her brother David Clifford, her sister Gloria Martinez, and Paulette Shaver. She will be greatly missed.
Thank you very much, Senator Correa. Please bring the name forward and please express our condolences to the family. Thank you very much. Members, we're going to return to the consent calendar. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 113 by Assemblymember Dickinson and Assembly Concurrent Resolution 114 by Assemblymember Monning.
Thank you very much. Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cannella. Aye. Corbett.
Aye.
Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Yee. Yee. Aye. Madam President.
Thank you very much. The vote is 38-0. The consent calendar is adopted. Members, we're going to return to motions and resolutions. Members, motions and resolutions. Senator Rubio.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a request, a unanimous consent to submit a letter that is not posed by Democrats or Republicans to the Journal this morning. Thank you.
Without objection? Thank you very much, Senator Rubio. If there is no other business, Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear. Oh, pardon me, Senator Hancock.
I simply wanted to announce, Madam President, that Budget Sub 5 on public safety and the judiciary and corrections will meet immediately upon adjournment in room 113.
Thank you very much, Senator Hancock. Senator Liu.
Madam Chair, announcement that Budget Sub 1 education will meet directly upon adjournment and 3191.
Thank you very much. Senator Negrete McLeod.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to announce that Budget Sub 4 will meet at 9:45 in room 112.
Thank you very much, Senator Negrete McLeod. Senator Dutton.
Condition of the file.
Senator Dutton.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I'm now completing my 8th year in the Senate. And during that time, I spent most of my time on budget in having to negotiate some pretty tough budgets in the past. And I feel that it's partly my responsibility to remind people of what used to be. 15 plus years ago, the Senate and the Assembly would actually pass their own budgets. Each House would deliberate the merits of what's being proposed. We would argue about the priorities that should be established. And frankly, these bills were independent. There wasn't any kind of an agreement between the houses before fact. It was actually the Senate did its budget and the Assembly did its own. And frankly, that process served us pretty well. And then what we would do, we would form the Budget Conference Committee, and then the bills would work out the differences between the two houses in that process. Well, when Dumajian was governor, I think that's when they started the Big Five process. And that method of negotiating budgets in a total open format kind of got taken, it kind of went put off to the side. And what we started doing is a practice of doing spot bills. And the spot bills were basically done for expedient purposes. The problem with the spot bills is that there wasn't any real transparency in the budget process. There wasn't any debate about the merits in session like what they used to do. But also, too, the Big Five process lended itself to having the leaders come together and kind of work out some of the differences before we actually would adopt a final budget. Well, frankly, my experience from last year is the Big Five process is gone, and that's, to some, is a good thing. But also, this adopted process or custom of the House of doing spot bills as opposed to doing a regular full budget has now become an added part of the process. I recall my former colleague, Senator Tom McClintock, would annually remind us that we're in violation of the legislative process. And after the passage of Proposition 25, and now you need simply a simple majority. And by the way, the other reason we did the spot bills, at least I've been told, was because of the 2/3 vote requirement. It would just help kind of expedite the process. Well, we don't have the 2/3 vote requirement on a budget anymore. So I would like to consider, I think we ought to really consider maybe revisiting the old ways of actually adopting a budget in total transparency. Let the priorities of the majority party be known publicly beforehand, and allow a process that would actually permit an actual budget be adopted by both houses, and then use the conference committee for what it was originally intended for, and that is to work out differences. My experience on conference committee over the last few years has been it's just a way to help facilitate a conference between the majority parties in both houses, and frankly, for the most part, I always felt like I was just kind of there for show. I would like to suggest that maybe we go back with the simple majority vote. I think we ought to really consider also being a little bit more formal in the way we're going to go forward with the budget process. And I just throw that out there for your consideration and for you to think about.
Thank you very much, Senator Dutton. Senator Pavley, I believe you have some guests to introduce.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. For the purpose of introduction, up in the balcony, members, please direct your attention to fourth graders, teachers, and parents from Stephen S. Wise Temple Elementary School in Los Angeles.
Welcome to Senator Pavley's guests. Senator Leno.
Madam President, on condition of the file.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Colleagues, I just want to briefly comment in response to Senator Dutton's thoughts, and with full respect for his experience serving on the Budget Committee and on the Conference Committee, and also in response to some pieces that I've seen written over the past week with regard to concerns of transparency and public participation in our budget process. Over the past 4 weeks, we have had over 20 hours of full Budget Committee hearings on each of the governor's major proposals in 4 different policy areas. We're about to have 30 subcommittee hearings over the next 4 weeks. This is as public and as transparent a process as possible. With regard to this issue of moving spot bills from one house to the other, there is great precedent for it, but I just want to remind everybody, as the Legislative Analyst Office has suggested to all of us, not to take any action on the governor's proposals until we get the final revenue figures in the May revise, that we will have a very, very tight window of time between the May revision and our June 15th budget deadline, which we all take very seriously. It's just a matter of weeks. And there may be need to move some bills back and forth quickly, if just as a backup for us. And yes, as a result of Prop 25, majority party can pass a budget, but a rule waiver still takes 2/3. And we've great history as to what transacts with regard to a 2/3 vote. So this is not about cutting corners. This is not about any lack of transparency. Once each house gets through our budget and each passes our budget, then we go into weeks of full and transparent conference committee. I think most of this building and anyone who's paying attention will probably say enough by the time we complete our public transaction of the budget. It will have been so in-depth and repeated and repeated and repeated. So I just want to suggest no corners are being cut, no new ground is being laid here, and all full respect for a transparent budget process is going to be followed.
Thank you very much, Senator Leno. Senator Blakesley.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. Again, on condition of file with your permission.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Very interesting interaction in terms of the logistics and the procedures of how to move budget bills through the process. I think there's a legitimate difference of opinion on what is the best manner to achieve these objectives, especially in the aftermath of Prop 25. What I would like to potentially add to the conversation here that I think is worth noting, that it's timely that we talk about transparency because this is Sunshine Week. The legislature has defined this as being Sunshine Week, and we're in the process of moving shells through this process with no substantive language. Now, again, the argument was that we won't know the answers to a lot of these questions until the May revise. A legitimate argument, but it is a larger question than that, because increasingly these budget bills in the aftermath of Prop 25 are now becoming vehicles for policy. Through the simple process of adding a $1,000 appropriation to any of these bills, and I believe there's 80 such shells, not sure why we need 80 such shells, major and massive policy changes can be implemented in the state of California under the guise of a budget which go into effect not January 1st of the following year, but as any appropriation. We heard on this floor previously that that was going to be the approach on dealing with regulatory reform when certain efforts to achieve a two-thirds were thwarted because policy had not been properly vetted. And we're now in the process of looking at budget bills that deal with education that could massively change how we finance schools in 1,000 districts around the state. And the question is, will this body and the chairs of every one of those committees who rightfully have the portfolio of working with those policies cede their authority to a budget process that passes bills which ultimately will include policies that are germane to their committees without proper deliberation? I therefore want to again share my views on this and hope that we as a deliberative body can be very thoughtful about the extent to which budget bills are used to pass policy without proper review.
Thank you very much, Senator Blakesley. Senator DeSagne, for what purpose?
Announcements.
Thank you very much.
In the spirit of transparency, Sub 3 will meet 10 minutes after the end of session today.
Thank you very much, Senator DeSagne. Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam President. It's tough to beat that, but I'd like to announce session will resume 2 o'clock on Monday, and then, members, the State of the Judiciary Address. Yes, the State of the Judiciary Address is 4 o'clock in the Assembly Chamber. We'll meet in the Senate Chamber at 3:45 and walk over together. Actually, as we all know, there's some very significant challenges and issues facing the courts, including the budget and beyond, and we look forward to the Chief Justice's address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Steinberg. We look forward to that historic occasion. The Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Monday at 2. Members, this meeting is adjourned.